deep breath and remember who you are. Yeah, they're gonna mess with you, baby, you're a star. Stepping in the spotlight, you know that it feels like time to put up a fight, honey. Got nothing left to lose, so let's start right now. Everybody want a piece of you. Gotta give them what they want, it's true. You're symphonic, yeah, so iconic. If you didn't know before, now you know. Now you know. Take a big step away from who you were. Flashing that smile and the whole world's a blur. Dancing in the limelight, oh you're on in the night. Looking fresh, looking tight, honey.
Powerful on a Wednesday, and it's 10 o'clock, and so I got Stacey Steinmiller with me, and
Yay, hi.
we're gonna talk philosophy today because
My favorite.
apparently I needed a challenge. Just realized how cockeyed my headphones always look on this, but anyway, so yeah, and total disclaimer, this is way beyond my pay grade, but it's something that I've been kind of looking into a little bit more, having some more interest in lately. And then working with you and stuff has had me starting to ask questions about some of the different types of philosophies that I've heard about. And so this was all sparked by an article that I saw by a guy named Neil Durant, and it was basically three reasons not to be a Stoic, but try, how do you say it, Nietzsche? Or do you say Nietzsche?
Nietzsche, I don't know.
Nietzsche.
Whatever.
I've heard like three different pronunciations of his name. Nietzsche. So I wanted to ask my resident philosopher. There we go. Philosopher. What she thought about the different schools of thought for this philosophy. So I have notes, but I didn't know how we wanted to approach this. And did we want to just jump in with you explaining the difference, or?
Well, what do your notes say? I'm guessing you have questions or thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I discovered a guy named Ryan Holiday. He has a bunch of books out about Marcus Aurelius and the other Stoics. And I think I listened to 2 or 3 of his audiobooks. I like them. I think he kind of, puts it out there in a very easy way to digest. And it made sense. A lot of it makes sense to me. And we talk about this all the time. It's that dichotomy of control, the understanding that there are things that you can control and things that you can't. And happiness can be achieved by focusing only on the things you can control and letting go of everything else. And that's like kind of like the main thing that I get from that. And there's other things too, obviously, but and this article kind of said, yeah, that's great, but here's a different approach.
Right.
And it talks about Nietzsche and how he says everything is a contest, and you can't just let these things go. There are things that you can control, and he uses examples like I can control my car. I can, like, these other things that are like I think go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Well, that kind of cut out for a sec. Yeah, but he was just kind of getting a little black and white about it. Right. Which I thought so you can, but okay, driving your car is taking responsibility over yourself, right? Like you do have control to not be drunk behind the wheel. You do have control to, right? You know what I mean? To keep your eyes open behind the wheel. Like those are the things. But you don't have control if you have a heart attack behind the wheel. You don't have a control if another driver runs into you behind the wheel. So even in those examples in which in the article of saying he had control, he actually it wasn't like specific enough, like you or sorry, and now I'm like getting off on these things, but you can.
I felt like I felt like he kind of way simplified it so that it would bend to his his own interpretation of it, because it was like that's not, you're kind of missing the point. Because we know that there are things we can control. I'm controlling this computer right now. I'm controlling but I can't control if the network goes out somewhere else. I can't control that. So do I sit here and complain, and worry about it and constantly get all like, oh my God, what if it goes out? What if it goes out? Well, if it goes out, it goes out. What are we going to do? We're not going to be able to do anything because we can't control it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think he might have been pointing to maybe thinking he has more control than he does, which is a function of the ego, right? So of course the ego is going to want to argue on that and be like, no, I do have control. And it's like, no, you don't have control. And even he used to like about his wife, for example, like if his wife was feeling irritable, he has the control to bring her a glass of wine and whatever to support her. And yes, you can do that, but you don't have control over whether that stops her irritability or not. And that's usually where the suffering for people comes in, right? They try and control the situation to like make somebody feel better, but what they do is not guaranteed to make that person feel better.
Right. You're just assuming that what you're going to do is going to fix their problem, but that's from your
and it might, if you know your wife and if she always gets happy when you bring her wine, then okay, you are increasing the odds, yes, but again, it's still not, but yeah, you have control over your action and offering, like, hey, do you want a glass of wine? Or, oh, you look cold, do you want a sweatshirt? Like, yeah, so again, but that's Stoicism is about having control over your own actions, right? And those are your own actions if you're offering. So it just didn't really land his argument against that. And to say that Stoicism is passive, I thought that was weird. He called it passivity.
Yeah.
And I never would have put that word in describing Stoicism, that gets very disciplined, right? Like, and responsible. So I'm like, that's not passive at all.
Right. He's almost making it seem like, I don't, whatever, I don't care, which that's not what I got out of it. And he also kind of talks about how, it's hard to be an activist when you're a Stoic, because you have no control. It almost would go, I think it would bore people to go too far into the weeds, because even I was interested in the differences that he found between these two types of philosophy, but I also was like, I don't know. It's like when I go on these rants, and I was just talking about this yesterday, when someone takes a movie from like the 70s and rips it apart because of things that are in that movie that now don't land. Like they just
right.
It just doesn't land right now. But it's like, well, of course not, because that was in the 70s and the whole society had a different viewpoint of the world, and so now you can't look back at that from today's lens and go, You have to look at it from that lens and say, all right, well, I can understand this is how everyone thought. So this is why they're all laughing at this, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like this human need to try and separate everything out. Like we have to, and forgetting that everything's connected, right? So it's like you can't fully separate things out without recognizing how everything is influenced. So if you don't look at the culture and like you're saying, and the thoughts and beliefs at the time, like you've it's like you missed a huge ingredient of whatever it is. Yeah. And people, it's like, oh, this pen, right? It's like this pen, I can take it apart and look at the ink and all this, but it's also we bring purpose and meaning to this pen. It's a name, it's a pen, right? We write with it, we do these things, we communicate with it. But if you just take it apart and describe it that way,
then it's a mess.
Yeah, right. It just yeah. So that's the whole thing.
So this, the second point that he talked about, and let me make sure I get this word right, equanimity. Is that so? The Stoics argue the reason we should accept that we can't control anything out there in the world is because if we don't end up getting our own way, we might feel bad about it.
Which I couldn't find that anywhere in the meditations book here.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, yeah. You got
like
you
I
got
pulled
it right
this
there.
up.
That is like the Bible of Stoicism right there. I mean,
so I try to look through pretty quickly. I did. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any fears around. We must do this in order to not feel bad, especially because it actually talks a lot about pain, right? And so also just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think Stoics are afraid of feelings. They're concerned with right action, pious action, moral action, right? Inside and out.
And he says, he goes on to say, excuse me, emotions like frustration, contempt, or anger can be bad, but they can also be helpful. In both cases, the key is to be strong enough to allow yourself to really feel these emotions and then turn them into ethical action. But he's crediting that to Nietzsche's philosophy and going against the idea of what the Stoics are saying. He quotes him and says, the question is not whether these emotions are inherently good or bad to feel, but whether they come from a place of personal deficit or inner abundance, which I kind of liked that idea. But once again, you really have like this is really deep shit. Like when I read this stuff, I go like there's a moment where I completely get it, and then I read the next sentence and I'm like, wait a second. Does that contradict what he just said?
Yeah. So on that, I wrote emotions when felt are quite fleeting. So it's our attempts to control them that make them linger, or the re-engagement through the stories that we tell ourselves, or an untrue belief. And I know we've talked about a lot of this on here before, but it actually was when I did more reading, like more on like Buddhism and things like that, seeing emotions as it's the idea, if you feel and accept your emotions fully, they'll last a minute or two, right? So if you're angry and you claim and feel your anger, it comes like a wave, a literal wave behind me, right? Is a wave and then it settles, right? The next emotion comes, there's a wave and then it settles. But most people don't actually have that experience because they're trying to control their emotions. So I also don't see where in Stoicism, allowing the wave of emotion, it doesn't say that that's wrong or bad or can't happen. It's more about being in the right frame of mind so that you're not getting stuck in your emotion, right? At least that's my understanding.
And I feel like where is that sentence? I mean, going back here, I feel like he's saying that the Stoics are afraid of their emotions.
Right. Yeah.
They say it's a morbid fear of strong emotions, and particularly negative ones. But I don't think there's not a fear of strong emotions. It's just acknowledging their existence, but without completely dwelling on them, right?
Right, exactly. So it's more about the dwelling versus the feeling aspect is my understanding.
What would a real world example of that be? What would that look like?
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so say somebody insults you. Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this. If you just allow the feeling and you maybe you're hurt. Okay, so maybe a friend. Let's make it like a friend or somebody that you love, care about you says something insulting and hurtful. Give me 1 second, Scott.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So if somebody that you care about hurts your feelings, you're going to feel hurt, right? There's going to be a sadness, and maybe an anger or whatever. So if you allow yourself to feel that, that feeling will come and then it will pass and you'll move on to the next thing.
As opposed to what? As opposed to pushing it away and saying, I'm not going to let this bother me, or
Yep, there's two things, that people either do. Either they push it away and avoid, or they go into it and then I can't believe they said that about me, and then they're going into a story about what this means and blah, blah, blah. And then they want to argue or defend themselves, and all of that, right? So it's either you go into it and right? So then you're going to continue the anger by being in the story. Or if you don't feel your emotion either because you're afraid to feel your own emotion, then you're repressing it, and that's going to affect you in a lot of other ways as well. So
someone insults me, and my reaction is to be like, "Well, that was a little rude. I don't appreciate that. I don't agree with what this person says, but oh well." Is that basically what you're saying? And you just move on from it? I mean, that's seriously hard to do for a lot of people.
Well, you can have a conversation about the hurt with the person, right? And
which
so again,
also is very hard for people. There's not a whole lot of people that would just go right for that confrontation and be like, wait a second, did you just say this? Like, that makes me feel bad. I don't agree. I mean, that's a that's a really tough conversation for a lot of people to have. I know for me, that confrontation is like, I have to avoid
you keep calling it confrontation, which I feel like it can just be a conversation. So I would flip that.
Interesting.
And not that, right? Because that's all it is. It's a conversation. I don't know. You don't have to do that, but if you have a negative, feeling around the word confrontation, then I would change it to just conversation. And that's where but like, if you don't feel your feeling, if you don't address it, then you're going to have a hard time having the conversation, right? Or if you're just going to be in your story, then it's going to be hard. But if you're like, hey, my feelings are really hurt. You said this, and I don't see myself that way, and I don't want to be that way. And I don't want, I really don't want you or anybody to see me that way. And I just, want to talk more about that because this is really important to me. Right.
And would you almost sort of take the position of trying to see it from their point of view and be like, I'm trying to understand why you said this about me. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from and give me examples. Give me, like, what did I do specifically that brought you to this conclusion about who I am and what I'm about?
Right, exactly. And you can seek to understand from their point of view. And again, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to agree with it, but you can better understand of like, okay, well, I can see how you got to that conclusion. And then you can ask, like, I would like to share how I interpret that and
And
what's
here's
going.
why you're wrong.
But yeah, then you need to be in a conversation where both parties want to reach understanding. And then if you're not in that where both parties truly want to reach understanding, then why do you care?
Right, right. And that kind of brings me to the last point that he made, which he called the injury contradiction. And I'm just going to read right from the text here. One of the reasons Stoicism is appealing to people is because the Stoics have a reputation for a no-nonsense, hyper-realistic attitude to life. Things will go wrong, you will die, people you love will abandon you. Stoicism confronts all of these realities and says, just accept. This seems to me to be unrealistic, anti-human, and borderline unethical. Wouldn't it be better if my $20,000 road bike has been stolen to allow me to be angry, to feel the injustice of it, to rail against the world? The harsh reality is that I have been injured. It is not all in my head. To pretend otherwise is to pretend.
So I have a lot to say on this one too.
I'm glad you did.
Okay, so, and this is where if you don't understand the spirituality component going on here, you're going to get really confused. That my deep self, my self that's the collective, that's you, me, everything, all of it, cannot be injured. Only the ego can be injured. And the ego is in your control on what you choose to believe or not, right? So you can take that injury of like and be a victim of like, oh my gosh, my $20,000 bike got stolen, and make all this meaning and fear around that. But that's when you give your power away when you do that. Because you could get it back. You could have $20,000 show up another way. You can emotionally let that go so that you're not holding on to it. Am I saying like don't call the police and file a police report? Right? I'm not saying you not to do that. You can do all those things, but you don't need to identify as a victim and be injured from the situation, right?
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't have to ruin your life. It doesn't have to ruin
Exactly.
everything.
Right.
And once again, as we always talk about all this stuff, it's really hard to take that position for a lot of people, myself included. If tomorrow, I mean, I've had some things happen just recently that I've been
Yeah.
struggling with. I've been really battling with my just my overall stress factor, my overall feeling of well-being has been challenged a lot
Yeah.
because of just some things that are happening, and I'm doing everything I can to try to take that approach and be like, okay, this is what's happening, but one, we're going to get through it. Two, And actually it came down to really something really simple, which we say simple, but my wife and I, we were like, you know what? Like all that stuff is happening and we don't want that to happen, but our marriage has never been better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In 23 years, our marriage has never been better. So we have that. Our
Yep.
kids are good people. We have that. We have a cute as freaking hell dog. We have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and the other stuff is not where we want it to be, but all this stuff, it really is. So focus on that stuff.
Right.
It's a hell of a challenge though. It's a hell of a challenge.
It is a challenge because the mind likes to focus on what's not, you know, going well versus what is going well. But that's where it's like releasing our attachments and trusting and knowing. It's also knowing, I think that's where it's helpful to have the mindset of knowing that your inner reality is where you have the control. So back to point one here with the Stoicism. So if I focus on what I do have control over, which is my inner reality, and I show up in love and trust and with intention and discernment, then how does this not all work out for me? You know, like that if you truly believe that what you put out comes back to you, if you all of that stuff, then you're not going to waste your energy on worrying about the negative things. You know, if somebody steals your $20,000 bike, and you can file the police report, but if you believe, well, that person must have needed the bike more than me right now, where there's a reason for this, and I'm trusting that it's going to work out for me, it will. It just will. And I don't know, people think that's naive, but I've actually found the more you practice it, the more it gets better, and I know you've experienced that too, Scott.
Yeah. And I still, old habits come back to haunt you a lot. And once again, you have to do the work. You have to constantly I have to constantly remind myself. Even last night, I was just in a foul mood. I had a relatively good day until it was time to do payroll, and then I was in kind of a foul mood, and I had to go back and look at all the positive things that are happening and all of the things that could happen, and actually created a scenario that I really enjoyed living in. Just a little daydream, just like a little movie in my head where it's like, I'm walking through and this is here and that's there and this is happening and that's happening and these people are busy doing that. And you know what I mean? And I was just doing that. And some people may laugh at that or say, like you said, say it's naive or something, but it really did help me to kind of shake off those bad feelings and be like, all right, let's just concentrate on the good stuff right now. Doesn't mean that the bad stuff isn't happening. Doesn't mean that I don't care. It doesn't mean that it's not in my thoughts. Right. And I'm going to take action to fix those things.
Right.
I'm not going to just ignore them and be like, well, what will be, will be. That's an approach, but it's not really correct because you're missing a hint that's being thrown at you. Here's a problem. Yeah, you're going to need to fix it, but you can't fix it by getting pissed off and angry and dwelling on it the whole time. You have to think about it, and then maybe those answers will come to you.
Right. And they will come to you when you are in right mind and right mood and so forth. And I think that's also, kind of what the Stoicism aspect is when you are of right mind. Another way, if you are in belief that you're connected to source and infinite intelligence, you know that you have all of the solutions. And the best way to access those solutions is to calm your mind and be in right relationship with yourself and the world, and the answers do come.
And if you're interested in, because I didn't do this guy's article any justice, so
I feel like we kind of ripped it apart. I feel bad.
A little bit. But at my first reading, it was interesting enough to me to ask you about it, because I am interested in Stoicism. I'm interested in philosophy and the different approaches, and how I can improve my life by embracing some of these ideas. So I just posted the link to that article if you're interested in checking it out. It's in the comments below, and I feel better. I feel like I'm still on the right track. I'm definitely in the camp, in the Stoics camp, in the Marcus Aurelius. A lot of the stuff that I've read from Ryan Holiday, and a lot of he has a email list called the Daily Stoic that comes out that I get probably every day. I don't know. I don't always read all of them, but every once in a while there's an article that pops in, and the title of the article is exactly what I'm going through at that particular time. And I read it and it goes, okay. And it gives, it's some cool hints and things. Or the other thing you can do is you can go to radicallifecoach.com and sign up with Stacey Steinmiller and do some really cool coaching, because she will hook you up onto the right path.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, for my pal Stacey here and myself at rockfox.com, we're going to wrap things up right now, and then we're going to go into the other room. We just set up a new studio in our lobby. We converted that into a little studio, and we're going to do our own podcast, because we're helping people with their own podcasts all the time, that we're like, hey, let's do our own thing. So the three of us are going to do some recording, and hopefully that'll get posted very soon.
I can't wait. I saw your post and I'm really excited. And
Gen
it sounds like it's going to be YZ. So is it the three of you? Are you guys all different generations?
Yeah, the three of us are different generations. And so it's going to be kind of like, what really grinds my gears? You too.
I love like generation personality things. That's something I've always been interested in. So I'm really excited for this podcast.
And I feel like now, like our time period now is probably the most robust of that whole idea of multiple generations kind of like at odds or going at it, with each other. It's like you got the Gen X, my generation, Gen X is kind of like hanging back like this. And then the boomers and the millennials, and they're all like, so it's gonna be interesting. So
you gotta get a boomer in there.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I can get a boomer in here. I'll invite my in-laws.
I know a bunch. I hang out with them all the time. I'm the weird millennial that hangs out with boomers all the time. They're my parents.
You're a millennial. You're a
millennial? I am. Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
It's too late now. Well, that was a fun conversation, Stacey. As always, I appreciate your wisdom on these matters and your guidance on all the other matters. Once again, radicallifecoach.com is how you can get a hold of Stacey and do some coaching. Rockfox.com if you're interested in doing a podcast, live stream, or audiobook, or anything else audio and video related. We'll hook you up. We'll get you next time on the show, Positively Powerful, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on the platforms. Ciao.